Hello, guys, and welcome to another fantastic Indie Wednesday. And it's we've got CL Taylor coming up on the show after this, and it's a fantastic interview. So you should definitely stick around for that. And I've been waiting around for Mr. Hooley to appear and join me on the show. But you know what? I've got another guest with us today, which is a fantastic thing. So I've actually brought someone from the community into the show, who is someone that most of you know, and who created that fantastic video, by the way, that you just saw. And if you're listening onto the podcast, you wouldn't have seen that, but definitely go and check it out on the YouTube channel if you haven't seen it. And I am going to introduce to the show right now, Mr. Ross Young, creator of Deadheads and Gloomwood. Hello, Ross.
Hello. That was a nice intro. Thanks. Thanks for it. I haven't
It's a nice
at all
introduction.
been dropped into it at all. Okay.
No, not at all. And it's a nice introduction because that video, along with many other videos that we have that are fantastic, have come from your creation.
Yeah. Well, it's all a bit of help for the show, which I do enjoy a lot. So it's a pleasure to be here under very rapid circumstances. But yeah,
Rapid indeed. You have the savior of the writing community chat show this afternoon, because Mr. Hooley is hiding in a cupboard somewhere again. I hope that's as serious as it is. You never know. But it is the start of the summer holidays, and he is a teacher, so we've heard stories about how wild these guys go. But before we start the show, I'm very excited about this new feature that we started last week. And some of you on Twitter may have seen this, the beer token appreciation, beer token book promotion. So
get your book up there.
Oh, it will be. It will be.
There.
It's not going to be my book. It's going to be someone's book, and I'm going to introduce them because we have had a sponsor this week, and his book is going to go prime up in the top corner. And that person, do you know what? I'll put his book cover up first, so that gives, maybe if he's watching, it'll give him a hint as to who that is. So up in the top corner now, you will see this guy's book, and that is the cover of Who's There. Yes, that's a good cover, and it's a creepy book, I think, by all accounts. So
it doesn't look friendly.
So beer token book promotion this week is. His name is an unusual one for me, which is fantastic, as I always mess names up. Dimas Rio. Do you know this character, Ross?
I don't know if we've interacted very much. So
okay,
Dimas
so up on the
Rio.
bottom of the screen there, you can see Dimas Rio at Dimas_Rio.
Who's there? Creepy, slow burn Asian horror in the vein of The Ring. Oh, The Ring is a cracking film as well. That sounds good.
It does indeed. So it's there. It's on Amazon. It is audiobook, paperback, and Audible, which is fantastic, and of which actually I listened to a clip of earlier. And there's a great narrator on that audiobook, very good voice on him. Yeah. And in classic style, we have to now, I'm not sure, Ross, you didn't get this memo because you were late in the show, but I've got to drink a beer in appreciation of the book token.
As I don't have a beer in front of me and Chris isn't here, doesn't that mean you have to drink two?
Possibly, but that means I have to go upstairs. But if you can see this is my Rex. He's a really heavy dinosaur, T-Rex. And he is going to open my bottle, which, by the way, is not beer today, it's cider.
Just breaking all the rules.
I am breaking all the rules.
On day one, you're breaking all of the rules.
But what I thought is in Wales, we've actually got a summer's day today, which I know, shock horror, and I imagine in England is the same today because it's beautiful.
I'm not in England, man. I'm in France.
Of course you're in France. We had this conversation before, didn't we? Is it beautiful in France?
It is beautiful. It's been so hot today that it's been ridiculous, actually. It's been the weather where you're afraid to go outside. It's that hot, but it's been good.
Oh, no, I think we've had one of those days that's actually, it is just perfectly temperatured and it's not too hot. And do you know what? It's just been nice to be in. And you've heard this on the show before, I imagine. The glugging of an alcoholic drink in my, and I poured that terribly. Ex-barman, a long time ago. So yeah, as we mentioned, CL Taylor's coming up on the show. That's a fantastic interview, very insightful as always. When we have a guest on that have she's released quite a few books. I mean, some of the reviews she's had are from some serious players in the writing game. So that's just a fantastic thing. I think both me and Ross one day would love that to be a reality.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I'm just Right, I'm with you. Sorry, something went a little bit wrong.
No problem. Are you replying to some comments? No, we haven't
No,
got
I'm
a
not. I wouldn't
comments.
do that. That would be so rude of me right now in the middle of the show. No, I'm really not. I've got two screens. I've actually got like four screens around me right now because this room that I'm in didn't exist last week.
Wow.
There's a nice white wall, which is this isn't exciting. This has nothing to do with writing.
I
I'm
know
just
it
happy
is exciting.
with the wall.
We love
Yeah,
delving into the worlds of other people, and I think
yeah,
that white wall looks prime for a back screen there.
yeah.
You know,
It
you
looks
don't.
like I need one. If only there had been some time.
Well, you never know, Ross. If this is a regular thing, you can have your own WCCS background there. Which, by the way,
That's how,
that was
that's Halo's work.
that is Halo's work.
Yeah,
If only we can complement it with our faces, you know.
that's well. Speak for yourself.
So, are you happy to answer some questions that we've had in from the writing community?
It would be a pretty bad show if I said no now, wouldn't it? Let's be fair.
Slightly awkward,
Yeah,
perhaps.
yeah. Go on. What have we got?
Well, normally this Indie Wednesday show, because Indie Wednesdays is all about helping indie authors. You know, we're still there. I guess we're still working our way. We're not published and we're not in contract, I guess. But you know, there are people that listen to this show that are new in the game. So I've just pulled off some questions from the Twitter community as opposed to having a theme this week. And I thought we'd just give our opinions of how we deal with these situations. And hopefully we can make some sort of sense. So the first one is from, can you read that out, that at
Yeah,
name?
okay. So that's from Kelia Ingram. Ingram. I'm trying a new thing where I read aloud my novel to fine-tune it. I thought I'd hate this, but it's oddly fun. Who else does this while editing? Honestly, I have tried it. I I find it awkward. I'm quite awkward anyway. I know you'd never guess, but I find it quite difficult to do. And what's really interesting is having listened to, because I looked at the Audible as you did yourself,
Yeah.
and had some narrators read back stuff to me. And then I had my wife listen to some of them as well. And she completely said that they don't sound like the characters, which made me think, well, she's got in her head what the characters sound like, and I've got in my head what the characters sound like. And dialogue's a really tough one in particular with this. So I've not done it very much. I personally find it quite awkward, but I do know that it's very powerful, a very powerful tool. What about yourself? Have you tried it?
I have, and this was after some advice from a few people, just asking around, and it does help me as someone
Yeah.
who is quite into doing things myself, and just because of finances, and a lot of authors that might listen, or new authors listen to this show, they might think about how much money they might make with a book, and sometimes there isn't a lot, and it really isn't. As a self-published author, you have to promote, and often there's little return, especially if you've gone down print on demand because you're being charged for the service. So for me, reading aloud my work, again, initially I thought awkward, but sometimes you pick up a sentence or two that actually doesn't really make sense when you say it out loud.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And again, I can completely agree with the audiobook process at the moment. The first few auditions I got when I heard someone saying the words that I wrote down is cringeworthy. But then you get to a point where it just becomes, okay, you're listening to the story and someone read it rather than just judging yourself for what you've done.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you guys did the what was it, the bedtime stories, and I was reading through Deadheads, and I read that first chapter. I found that really awkward. I must have done that about 15 takes on that, because again, I found it difficult to do. I'm not very good in that sort of situation where I'm having to perform, if you like. And then when I got to the second chapter, which you guys asked for and some people were doing, I started reading that. And it was the first time that I put my book down and went, yeah, I like reading that, but I've got to admit, it's not the most fun to read out loud because it's a very heavy narration section of the book, and it's a very short section, but it's a bit of that schoolboy era of a little bit of a data dump at the beginning of a book, and I think that's probably something that I may have known more about had I vocalize more of my own work at the start. So I definitely think it's a really powerful tool and something you should do and not be embarrassed about, like me, who feels awkward doing it.
I honestly think if you're going to be an author of any kind of seriousness, you need to be looking into, say, book launches, for example.
Yeah.
People are not going to expect you, even if it's friends and family in a pub, which I'm probably going to do very soon, just to go there and say, "Oh, there's my book. I'm having a beer. Buy it if you want."
Yeah,
They're
pick
going
it
to
up.
want you to, at the very least, be able to say what your book is about. At the very least,
Yeah.
explain your characters and what the story is, and that has to be, in reality, that's a sales pitch. So if you
Yeah.
can
And
also, yeah, go on.
it's something that people find really, really difficult. There's a lot, and I hope I'm not stepping on any of the other questions you're going to bring up, but there is a lot of questions on Twitter and a lot of people that get quite wound up about having to write a synopsis of your book if you're pitching to agents, or having even to write the blurb, or there's things like, I think it's Pit SFF that's starting this week, next week, which is much like Pit Mad, only it's science fiction and fantasy or speculative fiction specific. And there's lots of people going, well, what do I do? How do I condense all of my ideas into that little section? It's a tough ask. It's a big ask when you've written a novel, and then it's like, right, now afterwards, I've got to think about how to put this together. It's a tough task.
There's quite a good reason, and I talked about this recently on Twitter, that when we're doing at the moment the writing prompt competitions, where you practice writing short stories and you submit short stories to competitions and things like that, getting used to writing very short, meaningful. Even Twitter, I guess, is good at this, that you've only a certain amount of characters, and the amount of times I've written a tweet and I had to revise that tweet to fit it all in. You've got to really get the point across in a short space of time. So just practicing those sort of things may help you with a synopsis, but I'm not sure. Just practice.
Definitely. I mean, I do a lot of the prompts for VSS and Whisper and Brave Write and stuff like that, which are short stories in a tweet, and it really gets you to trying to narrow down as much as you can, which I suppose is a very good thing for editing anyway, because you need to cut out a lot of fluff, and if you're trying to write a story in a tweet, then you haven't got room for anything superfluous to what you actually want to say. So definitely, it's definitely a different skill.
Cool. Let's move on to the next question. Hang on, that needs to stay there. Okay. At JZ Pitts, Pitts, it says, writing community, what is the key to writing a good villain? That's a very deep question with many an answer.
I don't know about this one or one very similar to it. I actually answered today on Twitter. I don't think there is a right answer, and I made this very clear in my response as well. As like, what the hell do I know? So it's just what my personal feeling is. My favorite villains are the ones that you can understand why they're doing it, and you almost think, well, are they really doing something wrong? Or I can completely understand why they're doing that in the first place. So they're the ones that you don't necessarily root for. But I think my favorite villains are the ones where you're like, yeah, well, you guys did screw them over in the first place, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they're very good. Or you can understand why they're angry and stuff like that. For me, the worst form of a villain is just he's bad. He's just bad. He's just or she's just bad. Just an evil person. And I find that harder to find scary, I suppose, in a way.
Do you have a favorite villain, fiction-wise?
Oh, good question. I don't think I do.
Do you know
the
what?
Joker's a great villain.
He is. Oh, well, have you got a favorite Joker? Guys, we just go in many levels there. For me, I'm going to answer that myself. Heath Ledger smashed it out of the park for me. But when we go into, I'll let you think about that while I answer the question. For a villain, for me, exactly like you said, someone so almost relatable, who's got flaws and sort of a reason you understand that what's going on. For me, if we look into, say, Killing Eve, have you seen Killing Eve, BBC program?
I haven't. I've been told to watch it by hundreds of people.
Villanelle, the character in there, who's the villain, is just on another level of just the different personalities and the way it all comes across and everything that merges to one is an absolute love-hate relationship. And you love her more than hate her, even though she is the villain. So that sort of character that is dynamic, multi characteristic, all of those things that isn't just, I guess, you can't just have a villain who's just going out there to be evil. You've got to have reasons, you've got to have relatability, and I guess I'm not sure. But
You don't want Darth Maul. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah, not really. Well, we know my thoughts on that. I mean,
I agree.
Well, let's look at Kylo Ren. He's so flawed in so many ways that make you almost want him to get to the good side.
Yeah. He's a very good example of a good villain. That relatability, that's the thing. You want to be able to relate to the villain in some way. But on the Joker, Jack Nicholson for me. I know.
Okay.
Yeah. Old school though, but Michael Keaton as well as Batman. I thought he was immense.
Yes.
Not that they haven't been brilliant since then, but I think that was a good blend of the comic book fun with the same.
I am a fan of Christian Bale as well. However, I don't know if this is a popular opinion or not, but Ben Affleck as Batman, who I've heard is coming back, for whatever that might be, I'm very much not a fan. And and I don't know why. It's just something about it that just like turns me off. And it just ruins Batman for me. Ben Affleck has ruined Batman for me, and I'm sorry.
That's quite a statement. Yeah,
but it could have been. It could have been a mix of that and the DC films because they just didn't go in from say Dark Knight Rises to.
Let's not do this. Let's not start because that was a huge can of worms, and not from me, but you're just going to get so much hate now.
Oh, send it. This interaction's fine.
I'm not standing on one side of that fence. I'm happily going to walk along the middle of that fence. Go, yeah, no, they're fine. It's all good. Everything's fine.
Okay. Let's move on. Next question. Let's move on swiftly. This is yours. You can read this one out if you want.
Okay. So from Sadie Chelsea, pick up the pen at Sadie Writer. What's your number one struggle with being a writer? Did you do that on purpose?
No. This is completely random questions.
You asked a guy who has struggled to write the sequel to a book for almost a decade what his biggest struggle with being a writer is.
Well, you should have an answer.
Yeah. Okay. It's not really getting shit done because I've written loads and loads and loads and loads. It's committing to saying, right, that's the one, and I'm good with that, and I'm going to move on because instead, as you well know, because you've already heard me say this, I go, no, fuck it, I didn't like it, I don't like it, there's 60,000 words. No, it just doesn't work for me, and now it's gone, and start again, which I do quite often. I did that 2 weeks ago. I put that on Twitter. I've got 40K written, and I hate every minute of it, so I'm just going to put that to one side. And I start again. But I will say that now I have 25K written in 2 weeks that I really, really liked writing. And at the same time, I've gone back to old stuff. So my number one struggle is getting shit done and accepting that it is good as it is, rather than throwing the whole lot out, rather than just going, I need to just get down and fix this.
Do you know what? It's something I'm very fortunate not to have to deal with. And I'm not saying, well, it may be a case that I get to that in my life where I just write something and just go, you know what, I can't. But luckily I didn't get down that route in the first few stories I've written. So fingers crossed it's not.
So what's your number one struggle?
I'm going to say this is related to writing, but for me, it's been the audiobook process. And we spoke about this briefly earlier is my pickiness and... maybe OCD, I'm not even sure. But when it comes to a voice, being your character's voice, when my book is solely almost narrated by my character, I had such a connection with the voice that I made up for that lady in my head that when it came to people auditioning, even though they were fantastic, it was like, no, it's not my character. And that is something you really have to let go of.
Did you speak to them or did you just go, no, that's not the character?
No, I messaged them back on the ACX, but like it took me weeks and weeks and weeks to find someone I was comfortable with, and even then I was like, ugh. So it's hard. It's a hard process.
that's never going to be perfect because your characters are individuals, and I agree with that. My characters are very specific individuals,
Yeah.
and there's a big cast in Deadheads as well of characters. So to have someone that could do all of those characters to get them right, I'm never going to get that. So I need to reel in my expectations a little bit on that one, I think. But come on, so let's try this. Sitting in front of that keyboard right now, and you're about to write your third book. What would be the thing that you're most worried about, let's say?
Going off what I've dealt with in the first two books, or the comments I've started getting, or very few comments, very few, might I add, out of my great comments on my reviews of my first book, is just not having the finances to proofread properly or edit properly. So it's always having that criticism of, with people with a very critical eye when it comes to grammar. It's just because I haven't literally had the finances to go, right, do you know what? I'm gonna spend money on this to get it perfect. Whereas I know I wrote that for the general reader, like myself, who isn't that much of a keen eye, who just reads the story. But it will never really satisfy those who are super into their, picking up grammar and that sort of thing.
That's an interesting one because I was thinking about this. I mean, obviously we get good reviews, we get bad reviews, and there's been there's a couple of reviews where I've been like, and that I've got, and I've tried much harder not to look at reviews and stuff like that because it's because I did find that they massively influenced my writing of the next books. In particular, when people said they really liked a character or they wish they saw more of this character or that character, I go, oh crap, I better write more of this character. And I didn't do anything like that when I wrote the first book. I went, I'm going to write who the hell I want to write. And so I tried not to look at them so much, but there's been one or two. And I think this happens with the writing community as a whole, because we're all talking to each other and we're reading each other's books sometimes and stuff like that. And I think that sometimes, and I said this a long time ago when we spoke the first time on the show, that I think that we have to respect the fact that our books aren't for everyone. And sometimes people will pick up our book and the book isn't for them. And I've definitely had that experience where I've thought, everything you've said has been wonderful and positive and glowing. You've not said anything bad about it, but it's quite clear this isn't a book for you. It's not your sort of thing at all. And I'm okay with that. Absolutely fine with that. But at the same time, if you're honest about what's going on, it can be a little bit frustrating to get the feedback that says, well, I was expecting this to be, a romance with loads of erotica in it, and instead it's about dead people and a weird crime and lots of dad jokes. So, and I'm like, well, yeah, I've been quite clear about what it's about. So I think that can be quite tough when you're thinking, I know what I'm writing, I know what I'm putting out there, and you're being upfront about it, and then someone criticizes the flaws that are there and you're being upfront about them in the first place, because everybody's book is flawed as much as we'd all rather they weren't. So that is a good one.
That's great. It's one of the relatable to that. One of the first books I gave away of mine through the show, I sent to someone in America. I can't remember the lady's name, but she messaged me, and I'd signed it to her and all that stuff as well. And messaged me almost instantly when she received it and said, oh, you know what? This book isn't for me. Do you mind if I give it to someone? And that was the best rejection I've ever had. Because I was like, absolutely not. I know you said it's not for you, which is completely agreeable, but you want to give it to someone who might enjoy it, was fantastic. Rather than just throw it in the cupboard. It's
a very nice way to deal with it. Even just you know what, it's just not for me. It's just not my thing. That'd be fine. And I do worry about people painfully slogging through books, because there's a lot of people that refuse not to finish a book. I'm like, if you're really not enjoying the book, I'm not one of those people. Cry about it. I am. I've tried not to be as much now, but I am someone who will fight the way to the end of a book, and then be like, why did I do that? And
I've read two books by well-known established authors, and one of them within the first 2 pages was like, I just can't, and I put it down. And I maybe on another day I might have read that, but I just haven't. I just don't seem to have the patience to stick with something that's not instantly.
That is something I have put down books knowing that I will pick it up and try it again. So I suppose that's the same thing. I'm still not giving up on the book, am I? Like, you know what? I can't deal with that right now. And I've gone back to it and I've loved it. And it's a tricky one, because if you stop a book too early, some books are slow burners that they get really good halfway through, and you've got to
Absolutely.
get there. So it's an interesting one. You should put that one out.
What's
How soon would you give up on a book?
Yeah,
It's a good
I
question.
guess. I mean, there's TV series like that as well that people have said to me, just watch it and stick with it for the first few episodes. I'm like, I don't want to stick with it. I want to watch it and I want to watch it.
You are a massive Walking Dead fan, right?
Yes,
And
I
I can't believe you
know.
just said that. You've just said that, and you're a Walking Dead fan. And
Yes,
how many people say, "Yeah, no, it's brilliant." Oh yeah, I know. You just have to work your way through series 5. It's a whole series.
but
It's
the problem with The Walking Dead is that from day one, I watched it. I watched the adverts, I watched the show, and I watched it for a few seasons before it got terrible. So I was already committed.
didn't get terrible. It got really slow. But I'm not letting you go away on the Walking Dead. I shouldn't have brought it up because you
No,
could do the whole show on
it's
that.
fine. It's fine. Let's do the next question. Stephen J. Han. No, Han.
I think it's Stephen J. Hahn.
J. Han. Apologies.
Yeah.
At Stephen. Oh goodness. HANJHA.
It's right there on the screen.
Yeah, but they can't hear that on the podcast. See it on the podcast. Do you write about your life experiences, or are you just making things up? It's a very valid question.
So, when was the last time that you were a young female running around in the Canadian forest?
What I do on the weekends is no business of yours, Ross.
That's okay. I've never been dead, so
Well, that's a fair point.
there is that.
Well, yeah.
It's a very good question. I think for me, you can't help but write your own experiences in some ways into your books, and you have to. And obviously, we both write very much speculative fiction kind of stuff. So it can't be too based within our own sphere of experience, if you like. But definitely, there's a lot of my books that are a projection of things I've experienced. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you said, very much world of fiction, characters fiction, storyline fiction, but what's involved in that world, the senses, the smells, the sights, and everything like that is reality from my life. Even down to the sort of the military stuff that I've been experienced to. So the world, fiction, the feelings, the emotions, real, I'd say, is a good balance. Two more. Do you want to go for that one?
So Ash Tudor, horror community. Look around you. What nearby item could you use as a deadly weapon? Oh, I'm so
You're sat in an empty room right now.
No, wait. I'm going to put this on. Just not a deadly weapon, but it would protect me.
Oh, okay. Mr. Ross Young has left his chair and he's clattering around in the back of his room. And he has returned with, oh my goodness. Please explain to the viewers what that is.
I'm safe.
Please explain to the viewers what that might be.
This is my motorbike helmet. I don't have a motorbike. Wow. I don't have a motorbike, but I've got a motorbike helmet.
That's fantastic.
It's cool. My brother gave it to me. Look, it has the little. Can you see that?
Yes, the visor.
Up and down. Yeah. Okay.
That's pretty cool.
That's my excitement. I used to have. Once upon a time, I used to ride a bike, but not anymore.
I have either the old dinosaur that I've got on the screen again, which I opened the beer with. By the way, it looks like a little T-Rex. It is. But this weighs a ton. It's really, really heavy. Or
the T-Rex does weigh a ton.
He does. Or I've got my guitar next to me. So it's one of those.
I think the guitar might be more effective, to be fair.
Do you think?
Yeah.
This I'm not joking how heavy this is. It's crazy.
You have to get pretty close. I mean, what are we being attacked by?
I have no idea.
Tiny T-Rexes?
I'm not sure. Oh, do you know what? That was the last question.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, then we survived. You with the tiny T-Rex, me sitting in the corner with a helmet on.
Yeah. I mean, that's quite a good. If you've got the helmet, I've got the assault weapon. We can make it. It depends what we're running from, doesn't it?
It really kind of does. It really kind of does.
Okay. And yeah, so I've got this stuff show up on the screen. C.L. Taylor, the Sunday Best Times bestseller, this is a quote from Ian Rankin, by the way, went to some very dark places, twisting and turning all the way. I found it gripping and horribly believable. And now that comment there, obviously CL Taylor's coming on the show, but that comment there, that review by Ian Ranking, who's a well-established author, horribly believable, I think, is one of the best sort of quotes you could
It's
give
beautiful,
someone.
that, isn't it?
Yeah,
Fantastic.
and it just it screams life horror, I guess, and I'm not sure what that how to respond to that, but it's good.
She's the 6 times Sunday Times best-selling author.
The 6 times best-selling author.
Yeah, 6 times.
You're
Where-
Do you know what? My
she
computer
wrote-
is so terrible that if I was to pull that up on the screen, it'd probably crash the system. So I don't have live stats just yet.
Okay, well, I will tell you very quickly that she wrote Strangers, Sleep, The Fear, The Escape, The Missing. I'm pretty sure I've got The Missing on my shelf downstairs. The Lie, The Accident, and The Treatment. And she writes psychological thrillers. Honestly, she's huge.
She is.
Yeah, fantastic. What a guest to have on the show.
I know, it's
No.
amazing. We've had some
Wow.
great guests on the show, and bear in
You
mind
do.
that we
How are you getting these people? I have my suspicions.
yes,
You know, ex-army is forcing people into doing interviews on his podcast. I don't know.
favors.
Okay.
So when we spoke to CL Taylor, and it was a couple of weeks, no, I'd say a month or two ago, and it was currently hammering down with rain, and her house was being flooded. So she was dealing with that at the time of podcasting with us. So it's quite impressive and a commitment to coming on the show.
Brilliant.
Ross, if you were to have another show with us at some point, and you were able to pick your guest of choice, who would you pick to come on the show and speak to?
There's quite a lot. I the thing is that Christopher Moore, I'm actually a big fan of, and you had him on the other day. I'm also a big fan of somebody who I know you've interviewed because I suggested it to other Chris, and he went, "Oh, weird, we've just spoken to him," and I swore a lot because that's a great interview as well. But I'm not going to say who it is because this is for you guys to say.
Has this not come up yet?
It's not come up yet. I definitely would have listened to that one.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Look at this. They're not going to be able to see this, are you? I'm going to write it on the little side thing, which is fantastic for if you're listening or watching and have no idea what I'm talking about.
Oh, do you know, Ross, you can... Oh, I see, the little private chat. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
do you know what?
Yeah.
You
Big
can.
fan. You see?
Yeah, but do you know what the funny thing with this was? I
This isn't the one you told me about before.
no, this is even worse.
Oh no.
So I went out for a nice walk with my sister, who's doing a fantastic challenge for charity. She's doing 1 million steps in 3 months for charity,
Wow.
which is just an unbelievable. She's an incredible person who has done so many things for charity. It's crazy. So I thought, you know what, I'll join the walk. You know, we did an 8-mile walk together. I thought I'll help her out, bit of support. But when I was doing this walk, and I was literally the furthest away from the house I could have been, I had a message from Mr. Hooley asking me, "Are you ready for the show?" And I said, "What show?" And he said, "Oh no!" And so basically, I completely missed this interview and left Mr. Hooley hanging. So I do apologise. But it
you
swings and
missed
roundabouts, swings and roundabouts. So I missed this interview, and by all accounts, it was a good one.
Yeah, a phenomenal author, absolutely amazing, and very creative, and also very funny, which is obviously my thing that I attempt to be.
Yeah, I mean, you're more than welcome to announce this guest for us.
No, I'm not going to.
Oh,
I'm gonna. That would be unfair.
it would
I'm
not
not
be
going to do
unfair.
that. But other ones that I would like. I'm going to move you straight on.
Oh, go on then.
I've just
Ross is
silenced myself.
just assaulting his microphone.
Well, you know, someone's got to listen to me. Okay, so Tom Holt. Do you know Tom Holt?
I know the name. I'm not familiar with work.
He's quite famous. He wrote The Portable Door, which is probably his most famous one. And again, very silly fantasy comedy kind of stuff. Again, it's my wheelhouse. So I like to hear from writers that write something that's kind of in my genre, if you like. Obviously, for me, you did well. I can only assume that I've made you nervous, so you drank very quickly.
No, I was taking my time. Well, thank you. Before we finish up, thank you again. You can go back to that. Dimas Rio, thank you. Your sponsor was well worth it. And I'm hoping a lot of people will click on that link. And in the show description on the podcast, in the notes of the podcast show, there is a link to his webpage, a link to his Amazon book page, and all that stuff. So please have a look at it.
You need to read that out again, though. You need to do it in your cinema voice, because on the podcast you won't see this.
Well, no, of course you won't. But I interrupted you, so please carry on, and then I will read it out.
I'm just rambling, listing authors that I'd like to speak to.
Oh, okay.
So your turn. Tell me an author.
Max Brooks.
Good choice.
Big fan. And I have tweeted him once, and there was no reply. But he's a very famous person, so. And
that was why. Not because he knows who you are, and just
one day he'll be asking to come on the show. Do you know what I mean? But
sure. I guess you have it.
I bet he will. Yeah.
No.
So Beer Token book promotion. I got to do the voice.
Yeah.
I'll have to wait till that to scroll around again, or I'll miss it, won't I? Okay, I don't know how to do a cinema voice. Unless I'm laughing too much now. I can't do it. Beer Token book promotion. Dimas Rio at Dimas_Rio. Book is Who's There? And it's a creepy slow burn Asian horror in the vein of The Ring.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. Yeah. Well, I'm being nice to you.
Well, thank you very much, Ross. And again, thank you so much for coming on and saving the show tonight. And hopefully
that was great. That was good fun.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll hear from Mr. Hooley very soon. And
let's hope everything's okay, because that's not like him.
Well, it is sometimes. But as I said, it is the start of the summer holidays, and it's been a sunny day, so chances are he's had a few ciders himself. But we'll see. And I will let you know if he's well and safe. I'm sure he'll appear on Twitter. And again, look forward to the C.L. Taylor interview. It's going to be wicked. It is wicked because I've heard it. And look forward to Friday's Writing Community Chat show. And if you are a Thursday, if you are free on Thursday and you are a fan of the show, tweet us and you can come on for Faces from Places, 5-minute, get to know our guest, get to know our listeners little segment of the show. So you can come on and chat to us for 5 minutes.
That's very cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. Did you see Evan's last week? Did you see Evan being our Faces from Places?
Was it Evan?
It was Evan.
Loves being on the show. No, I didn't. I missed that one. I need to go back and have a look.
So he was our first Faces from Places, and you guys can be. So just let us know, and we'll get you on. And you can plug something. I don't know.
Something. Probably a book.
Maybe. Depends if they could be fans of the show in some other profession. I'm not sure.
But probably. That happens too. That does.
Amazing. Right. Thank you very much, guys. Please listen to the show later and get involved in social media. And from us, get on the YouTube and have a look. And from us, thank you very much. And we'll speak to you soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.